Super, right. Today we're going to make rough puff pastry. Rough puff pastry is a quicker version of puff pastry. We wouldn't have time in the lesson to make puff pastry. And the idea with pastry is rough puff or puff pastry is you're going to produce layers. And between those layers, the fat will melt and produce steam which will raise the layers up. Now, with puff pastry, you would do dough and then a layer of fat, and then dough and a layer of fat, and dough, layer of fat, but you would have to chill it down between each layer, and we haven't got time. Rough puff pastry is a quicker version where you have pockets of fat in it, so it isn't such an even raise, but you still got that raised and the leaf-like texture to it. So the first thing we need to do is we need to put our oven on, and we need to get our oven on at gas mark 6 or 200 centigrade. As with all baked products, you need a hot oven. So oven on first. You then need to grease a baking tray, and that baking tray, try and get one with a bit of a lip on, because the sausage rolls or cheese and onion pasties, whichever you're making, will produce quite a lot of excess fat, and you don't want that slopping around and burning yourself as you get them out of the oven. So lightly grease your baking tray, and then you're going to make your pastry. So to make your pastry, you need 200 grams of strong flour. You can use ordinary plain flour, it works just as well. The strong flour obviously has more gluten in it, but if you haven't got any strong flour, plain flour is fine. So 200 grams of flour, and to that you're going to add a pinch of salt, and that pinch of salt is going to add flavour and also help the development of the gluten in your pastry. Then with your fat, and I have got two types of fat here. I've got white fat, lard. If you're a vegetarian, you can use cooking instead, or you can use all hard margarine or butter. And the idea with the two fats is the butter, as you remember in our pastry experiment, gave us the best flavour, but the best texture came from the white fat. So you need the white fat for crispness, and you need the yellow fat for flavour. And you can buy hard stalk margarine if you're a vegetarian, but don't use soft spread. You won't get such a good quality product. You need a hard butter or margarine. Remember that the harder it is, the less plastic it is, has less plasticity, and that's what you want for your pastry, because you want a nice crisp texture. So I have cut my fat into small, very small cubes, and that is then going into my flour. Now I'm not going to rub this in. Now you will find with different recipes for rough puff pastry, they might rub half of the fat in and then cube the other half. Well, in my experience, I've tried it that way, but with it all cubed, we have a better raise. So I suggest that you cube it all, and then you're not rubbing it in, you're just making sure that you coat all your cubes with flour. You're not rubbing them in, just coating them with flour. When you've done that, you then need to add some cold water to bind them. So we need 125 mils of cold water. So measure accurately on a stable surface, 125 mils. 125 mils of cold water. of cold water, and that's going to bind your ingredients and make your dough. Just a little bit too much. Right, to that you are going to add a teaspoon of lemon juice. If you haven't got any lemon juice, just add an extra teaspoon of water, but the lemon juice is there to aid the gluten and make your pastry nice and crisp. So getting a palette knife or a wooden spoon, or a spoon if you're at home, you're going to add all the water. Mix it up first, and then you're going to get your hands in to make your dough. And you'll find if you've measured accurately that it will be the right consistency. So get your hands in, get all your flour into your dough. Dough. So we've got our dough now. So put your bowl in soak, because flour and water are your original glue and it makes it easier to clean. You then want to lightly flour your work surfaces. If you haven't got a flour dredger at home, just use your bag of flour, and you're going to flour your rolling pin as well, and then we're going to fold the dough 3 times. So we're going to roll it out, not too thin, it's at least 1 centimetre thick. And then we're going to fold the first third to the centre, and then the second third to the centre. And I have put the folding technique on the PowerPoint, so you can have another look. Turn it round, roll it for a second time, and as you will see as you're rolling, you will see little pockets of fat appearing, which is absolutely what we want. So if it gets a bit sticky, put some more flour on it. Fold a third in again, and a third in again. Seal the ends. Turn it round for a second time. If it's getting a bit sticky, a bit more flour on top. Roll it again. And by doing this, you're producing layers of dough and fat, which is what we want. And those layers, the water in the dough and the water in the fat, will turn to steam on heating, and it will raise up those layers. Again, a third and a third. Seal it, and then you're going to put that in the fridge for 10 minutes. So put it on a plate or in cling film in the fridge for 10 minutes. While that's in the fridge, you're going to prepare your filling. Now, if you are doing cheese and onion pasties, you're going to grate your cheese and you're going to finely chop your onion. If you're doing sausage meat, you might want to add some herbs to your sausage meat. So I'm going to, and if you've got sausages, you just skin them like I'm skinning the outside of the packaging. Just slice it down the middle if you've got just sausages and take the skin off. Now to that I'm going to add a few herbs, mixed herbs or basil or oregano or chives, whatever you want. And I'm going to add a teaspoon of herbs to my mixture and some seasoning, and then I'm going to just squash that together to mix up the herbs in it. And then I'm going to roll it out to an even shape. So I'm going to flour my surface. I'm going to get my sausage meat and I'm going to roll that sausage meat to a nice even length. Now it says on your recipe 30 centimetres. Well, I think that makes your sausages sausage rolls a little bit too fat, so I'm going to roll mine longer. That's why I'm not rolling it on a board, because I want it slightly longer. I want it more like 40 centimetres in length, which still gives a nice lot of sausage meat in them. But that's because I'm using a whole packet of sausage meat, not to waste it, which is a little more than 200 grams. So once I've got my sausage meat rolled, or you've got your cheese and onion prepared, we then need to get our pastry back out of the fridge. And the reason you put the pastry in the fridge is that when you've been rolling, you have actually been stretching the gluten, and it allows your gluten strands to relax, so your pastry doesn't shrink too much when cooking. So I'm going to go and get my pastry. And before I roll it out, I'm going to do the same rolling process again. So I need my rolling pin. So roll it out again to about 1 centimetre thick. And you can still see your pockets of fat in it. And you're going to third it to the middle again, to the middle again, seal it, turn it round, roll it again, to about 1 centimetre thick, and then fold again for the second time, seal your ends, turn it round again, and your little pockets of fat will be sticky, so you will need to use quite a bit of flour. And this is the final time we're doing it, so you've folded it 3 times before you've put it in the fridge, and you're folding it 3 times after you've put it in the fridge. So we haven't actually said what the flour is in here for. The flour is the structure of the ingredients, structure of your product. The fat is the shortening agent, which coats the gluten in the flour, the protein in the flour to make it a short texture, and your water is there to bind. So we fold it again, a third and a third, we seal and we turn it round. So our final rolling is going to be the length of our sausage, or in the case of the pasties you will need to find a circular shape such as this, which would, when folded, make a nice large pasty, or you could use a cup and make small pasties. But you basically need to roll your pastry so that you can place 4 of these on that pastry. Excuse me, the fridge isn't shut. So you're either going to roll it square for your pasties, or for your sausage rolls you're going to roll it the length of your sausage meat. And your pastry should now be in layers with fat pockets in it. So I'm rolling this the length. If your pastry gets a little bit sticky, as it will do with pockets of fat, make sure you flour the surface again. And I'm going to roll it the whole length of my sausage meat. I also need it wide enough to roll around the sausages. Now if you make it too thick, you will find it won't cook in time. It won't, the dough won't be fully cooked around the sausages. You don't want it too thick around the sausage meat. So we're nearly there. As you see, it stretches back a bit. Lift it up and make sure it is not sticking. And you need, as I say, you need it wide enough to go. Sticking a bit there. Wide enough to go around your sausage meat. So, I'm now ready to place my sausage meat on it. So, now if you get a Greg's sausage roll, you will find that it's rolled round and underneath. Well, that makes the pastry at the bottom very thick. So we're going to do it the traditional way with a little cuff. So what you next need is some water, cold water, and your pastry brush. And you're going to paint some water down the one edge of your pastry. Now if you haven't got a pastry brush, use your fingers to do this. That's absolutely fine. And then you're going to roll your pastry round your sausage meat. Making sure your cuffs meet. And then with your thumb, you're going to press very firmly all the way down your cuff. And that is how you would make a traditional sausage roll. Then we're going to just tidy this up so there's very little waste of pastry. And with puff pastry you can't all scrunch it all together and re-roll it. You have to put layer on layer and then re-roll it, otherwise you'll lose your layers. Then to encourage that layering, take your knife and just pat along your cuff, and then you're ready to cut up. Now you can make small ones or you can make larger ones. The larger ones obviously will take longer to cook. So you can measure with a ruler or you can do it by estimation. So if you're doing it by estimation, you work in halves. So we cut it in half and we cut it in a quarter, and then that's going to make 3 sausage rolls. So we cut it into 3, those are the size I want them. And 3 there. And if you get too much sausage meat on your knife, give your knife a little wash. So half again. And that gives me 12 sausage rolls from 1 packet of sausage meat. So, if you've got very small sausage rolls, you're just going to put 1 cut on the top. If you've got larger ones, you put 2 cuts on the top and place it on the tray. If you're doing the pasties, you'll put 2 or 3 cuts depending on how big your pasties are. These won't spread out, so you don't have to leave loads of room between them. And that cut will allow the sausage meat to cook evenly in the middle and gives a decoration so you can see the layering of the pastry. Try and get them as even as possible. And then the final thing we need to do is we need to glaze them. Now we're going to glaze them with, I'm going to glaze mine with milk, which will give a matte finish and improve the appearance. You could glaze them with egg, which will give you a glossy finish, or you could glaze them with a mixture of egg and milk. So I need my pastry brush again. Again, if you haven't got a pastry brush, just use your fingers. You don't want them swimming in milk, you just want to give them a bit of a painting of milk. Final one. Only needs a little bit of milk, not a lot. And those are ready to go in the oven. Now remember, your oven is hot and they're going to go in the oven for 15 to 20 minutes. Now you must make sure the bottom of your sausage roll is cooked and your sausage meat is cooked. So I reckon after 15 minutes check them. If you don't think they're cooked, leave them for another 5 minutes. So in the oven they go, using oven gloves, and while they're in the oven you get washed up, tidied up. So once your sausage rolls have had 15 to 20 minutes in the oven, don't forget to use oven gloves to get them out. As you can see, there's quite a lot of fat swimming in that tray, so use a tray with a lid. They should be nice and golden brown, and you should be able to see the layers of your pastry. Make sure that underneath they're properly cooked as well. You don't want any soggy bottoms. Okay, and that's rough puff pastry. The same with the cheese and onion pasties. They need to be golden brown and flaky as well.